Welcome to another episode of Convo with Coop. Today we have a very special guest. He's a professional shot putter. He was a multiple-time NCAA All-American. He was a 2020 Tokyo Olympian. And, in my opinion, he is the most entertaining shot putter in the world. Nick Ponzio. All right, man. How are you doing today, man?
Good. I'm doing well, Nathan. Thanks for having me on.
Heck yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, obviously, this is a really crappy situation, and a lot of people know kind of what's going on, but I just want to hear your side of the story and any new things that's happened since the last we've heard about it. So just feel free, go ahead. What is going on, and why are you in the situation that you are currently in?
Yeah, so I think everybody kind of knows about the situation with phone and the whereabouts filing and all this other stuff, and there's been a lot of stuff legally that I've learned about this through my lawyer and everything like that over the period of time that this has all kind of happened. But what basically happened was WADA is stating that the reason as to why I got suspended even in the first place is because they have a new rule out that came out maybe a summer or two ago. It's a relatively new rule where there has to be whereabouts filings at all times wherever you're going. And when I went to the Millrose games last year, 2023, my phone had broke and I wasn't able to get into my Adams app, which is basically like, the U.S. athletes have USADA, but I'm a European athlete, so I can be through Italy. So I have an app called Adams, and I wasn't able to get in there because all of my login information was on my phone that had broken, and it was kind of like this whole fiasco. I was trying to contact my club president to tell the federation and all these other things, but they knew essentially where I was. So in the trial that happened, they knew that I was in Italy. They knew that I was in Turkey for the European Championships. It's literally a 9-day period. It's from February 19th to the 28th of February. That because I wasn't able to file that I was traveling home from Italy and traveling to Turkey, it was this massive deal on their end. So in that 9-day period, I had 3 different drug tests. 2 of them were urine, 1 of them was blood. And which in my opinion should exonerate me from any sort of like drug testing fault. I know like I had mentioned, the whole ruling is based on a filing error. So the fact that I just didn't even open the app is what they justify a 2-year ban for them, or up to a 2-year ban. It's a 12 to 24 month suspension that they. So regardless, I think that the drug testing should exonerate me, especially since I passed 3 different drug tests in that 9-day period. But regardless.
So they gave you 2 different whereabouts violations in a 9-day period?
That's what they gave me. Yeah, they gave me for the Italian Championships, which was in Ancona, Italy, which they knew where. I mean, they posted me on their Instagram. The federation posted me on their Instagram, and then the federation posted me again when we went to Istanbul, Turkey, which was the 28th of February when I got there. And that's what they're giving me 2 whereabouts for, was that 9-day period, which to me also is that's a new thing too, because you never really see people getting whereabouts failures or filing failures, I should say, for a 9-day period. Usually it's like, oh, one happened here, then months down the road, another one happened. It's never like this quick turnaround. So to be honest, it almost seemed personal. But regardless, I got my club president involved, and his lawyer got involved, and we went to trial with with NATO Italia. We did like a hearing, and we were able to settle in the hearing down to a 1-year suspension, which everybody kind of knows about. That was what was planned, and I have been kind of getting myself physically and mentally prepared for this Olympic year based on that year suspension. Been doing a lot of stuff physically that have kind of changed my body composition, which I'm sure some people have seen. I've lost some good amount of like body fat, and trying to change myself as an athlete overall. And I'm sitting in Vegas at my sister's graduation in October, and I get an email saying that WADA appealed my suspension. So they appealed it, basically stating that the fact that the year suspension they believe was too lenient. So I had to go back to trial. And since October till about maybe, I don't know, a week or 2 ago, I've been dealing with this the second trial with my lawyer once again, and they wanted to appeal it for another year. So they wanted to give me a second year. And what they had stated was, and I quote, they think that Nick Ponzio getting a 2-year suspension is not only it's not only appropriate but necessary. That's what they said. So they think that me not filing my app for a 9-day period was not only enough to give me a 2-year suspension from my sport and my job, but they believed it was necessary. They told my agent that the reason as to why, or I shouldn't say it's the entire reason, but one of the reasons they gave me the appeal was because they don't want me to go to the Olympics. So they legitimately said that there is no chance that Nick Ponzio goes to the Olympics. So after months of dealing with this and lawyer calls and tens of thousands in legal fees and everything else, I unfortunately had an additional 6 months added on to my suspension. And that's, I'm sure, what everybody saw on Throwers Universe. So now I have an 18-month suspension for a filing error. So for legitimately since the whereabouts period, I've been drug tested in my home like 5 or 6 times. All's passed. I've never had any issues with anything. And I need to preface this. I know I've gone into a little bit of a rant here, but I need to preface this because on that Throwers Universe post, people just don't seem to understand this. I have never once missed a drug test. I have never once not been in a place and they tried to come get me. I have never once been in a situation where they came to come get me and I was non-compliant in the sense of saying, hey, I'm not taking this, or hey, I'm not showing up to this. There's never been one time where they've ever called me and said, hey, we need this sample or this sample. And I said, no. There was never anything like that. Anytime they've ever showed up to drug test me, I've been there. Anytime they've ever literally in when the filing whereabouts failure thing, in that time, they came to come drug test me. They knew where I was. They found me in my hotel rooms and everything like that. But every time they've ever done that, I've always been, even if it was 6 a.m, absolutely, whatever. I have nothing to hide. I can have someone live in my basement and drug test me daily. And I have nothing that they can watch everything that goes in my body. I have nothing to hide at all. I'm not, somebody made a comment on Throwers Universe, the fact that I have faith and that I am a man of God, that they're like, oh, he's falling back on that to cover up his tracks and cover up all the negativity that he did. And that's just not true. I'm just not the type of guy to do that. I just don't see the need to cheat. I have put so much time and effort into this that cheating would just I would feel like all the work and effort that I did would just make it not worth anything. It would just diminish anything I've ever done. The fact that I've grown from being a decent college thrower to now a top 10 thrower in the world and an Olympian and world championship finalist and Diamond League finalist, all that other stuff based on my hard work, to think that I did that because I took a substance to help me get there would just, for a guy like me, would eat at me. Because I don't not only look at like the fact that I cheated to get to the top, but I think about all the people I cheated to get there too, like guys behind me too, like guys that could have been there if I didn't cheat. So it just doesn't make any sense for me to have done that. So when it comes to this entire thing, people need to understand it's literally because of an app. We're in a digital age now, and they think that I shouldn't be able to throw a shot put physically as far as I can because my phone was broken and I couldn't update an app. That is 100% their ruling. That's exactly what they think is best.
All right, and that's a really good point, because when I was listening to your video last night, that's exactly what I was like. They actually never came to your wherever you were, and
Never.
You weren't there.
Never.
It was the backlog rule that they said we can see in your app you said you were blank, and we can prove you weren't there.
Yeah, that's 1,000,000% it. There was never a time where they showed up and they were like, oh, we can't find Nick Ponzio. There's been other athletes that have been suspended for this ruling that happened, but that has never been. I have a Ring camera at my home, and I could show you the days that they said that there was like a whereabouts thing, and nobody showed up to our house. It's legitimately, and they've admitted this, it is 100% the fact that they think that your app needs to be updated at all times, and because I was unable to do so, or at least I believe I was unable to do so, they think that I was at fault and that I have this negligence and that I could have done it. And they think that it was egregious, which basically means that they think I did it on purpose. So they think I did that on purpose because I was trying to dodge. So they think that I was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to take it anyway, sort of thing, which to me is wild. Like, I literally did a call with my lawyer and a WADA lawyer, and they said that, and I was like, the fact that you guys think that that's what I did is like bonkers to me. Like, it is so insane for you to think, like, on your end, that you just have this like preconceived notion, like, yeah, no, this is what we think, and it's like, oh, okay, so you can say what you want, but if I say something, all of a sudden it's no, that's not true. I even, you know what's funny? Nobody really knows this, and I don't know if I put this in the first video that I did. I have affidavits from my girlfriend at the time, a woman who worked at Milrose games, and from Ryan Krauser about saying like, hey, yeah, his phone did broke and he was trying to like physically talk to people. He called his agent. And literally, they could not care less that like the world record holder was with me when it happened. Like Ryan Krauser was walking the streets of New York with me to go like try to fix my phone. Like I said, my girlfriend at the time was there, and she was like, yeah, we were like in his hotel room calling places to fix his phone, and he was trying to contact his club president. And the woman at the meet, I was talking to her about, I was like, hey, I can't figure out anything because I don't have my phone. And she did it too. And it was like, they just didn't care. Like I could have literally put on a silver platter like this entire argument as to why I wasn't able to do it and like what happened, and they just were like, we don't care. Like to me, to a certain point, it almost started to seem personal. Like it almost started to seem like they just wanted me out of the sport. And I don't know if, obviously I can't prove that because that's a suable offense, but it's getting to a point now where it's like, why am I receiving this just like out of bounds sort of punishment for a, like if they gave me 6 months for this, I'd be like, okay, that's still, that sucks, but it's whatever. But they're giving me, to give me 18 months to 2 years, which is what they wanted to give me for this kind of offense, to me is just, it's insanity. Like in my eyes, there are people out there, and I'm not going to name any names, but there are people out there that are failing drug tests, whether it be for street drugs that you don't believe should be legal or not, or illegal or not. You are still failing drug tests at national championships for substances that are banned substances, and they're getting 1/24th or 1/18th of the suspension that I'm getting for failed drug tests. Like, what are we? I don't understand what the purpose of WADA is anymore. I don't understand it. Like, if they're trying to keep the sport clean, if they're trying to actually elevate the sport and make it, the best that they can be, which is what they say is their mission statement on their website, then what are we doing? Like, I can't seem to really wrap my head around it. My agent can't seem to really wrap his head around it. My lawyer either. But we're at a point now where, in my eyes, WADA's almost mafioso. Like they just make the rules and we just have to adhere to them. And it's sad because it's like there's nothing that can be done. I mean, in other major professional sports, if you fail a drug test, like for PED use, you miss a couple games. Like if in the NFL, if you get a PED tag, it's like, oh yeah, you have to miss 6 games. I have to miss 2 years of my job. And if anybody knows who I am, I compete 40 times a year. So that means I'm missing out on damn near 80 opportunities to make money, to make a living. So it's getting to a point now where it's like, is it just me that you guys don't like, or so? I don't know. I mean, even my lawyer made a comment. It was funny. He was like, it almost seems like they're using you as like a guinea pig for this thing. And this is kind of where I think they're going to start going towards for major suspensions rather than actually like failed drug testing. I think they're just going to start making whereabouts failures the big suspension, which I think is a total shame.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that go into it, like international privacy laws and stuff, that they can't like just put GPSs on our phone, but it's essentially what they want. They want to know every time I wipe my ass, essentially. excuse my friend. But it's like, I mean, they want to know every little step I'm taking here, and it's like, well, then just put a GPS on me. I don't care. I'll put a tracker in my leg if you need it that bad. I don't really understand the reason as to why having to go in and manually change things is exactly what you want. But, it's this crazy thing. So, unfortunately, it's gotten to a point now where, like I stated earlier, I am going to have to unfortunately miss the Olympics, which to me is such a letdown. And this year's been really, really tough. Like, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened that has made 2023, I shouldn't say this year now because it's 2024, but 2023 in particular has just made it like probably one of the worst years of my life. Like it was just so many negative things, like thing after thing after thing. And this was, the top of the list, obviously, because it's, I've worked so hard to be where I'm at. And it's like for me to have such a good 2022 and finish ninth in the world in the year world ranking, which anybody who knows anything about world rankings, like to get into the top 10 in the world ranking is like one of the hardest things to do. It's so difficult. Like I said, I did 40 meets, indoor outdoor world championship finalist and Diamond League finalist and indoor and outdoor national champion and everything. And it was like I finally cracked the top 10, and then just the next year they're like, hey, yeah, no, you're screwed. So it's really, really tough. Like I said, because now I'm gonna miss all of 2024 damn near. I'm available to compete the end of August, which should give me about a month left. I'm hoping the first meet that I'll do is the Rome Diamond League, which is the 29th of August. So 27th is when I'm off of my suspension. So I'm hoping maybe they'll allow me to come back and do that. But it's just this crazy thing. And like I said, it's at a point where in my eyes, and I think in a lot of other people's eyes, if they know exactly what's going on and they know me personally, like, this is just so unnecessary. Like, it's just so it's becoming, I don't even know the right terminology, but it's becoming like, it's just so over the top for this. I don't know where to even begin when it comes to trying to explain their understanding with it.
Yeah, and because you initially had a 12-month ban, which was
that's what I initially had in. I signed for that. I want to say because my last meet was the Drake Relay, so it was the 29th of April of 2023, and I want to say it was like middle of May. It wasn't long after that. Like I did that meet. I came back to Nebraska, and I think maybe a week or two later, I had like I had to do it over online, and I did like an online hearing that was like 2 hours long with the Italians, and it was, I think right then and there they were like, all right, we're gonna send over the plea agreement for 12 months, and I was like, all right, let's do it right now, and so I just signed it, and it was it, and that's another thing. I'll just get into this briefly too. Like track and field, I think has the only legal system that you can get a penalty, serve 6 to 8 months of it, and all of a sudden, hey, we're just gonna give you an appeal for more time. Like there's like no legal system on earth can you be like, yeah, I'm in prison for selling a kilo of narcotics and I'm sitting in a prison cell, and then like 6 months down the road someone just comes to your prison cell and says, hey, no, we're appealing for more for no reason at all. Like you didn't do anything else, like any other penalty. We're just giving you more time because we feel like it. Like that's why when I say it sounds like almost mafioso, like this is the only sort of legal system in any sort of field, whether it be legal, judicial, whatever it may be, that has that sort of scenario where they can just like give you more for their own benefit because they want to.
So you signed a plea saying it's going to be a 12-month suspension in May, and then
I signed a plea with NATO Italia, which is the Italian foreign. Like it's like our foreign agency for drug testing. They're the ones that come to my home. They usually, they extradite obviously to somebody who is either in the area or somebody flies in for it. But I signed it with them. That there are drug administration for the Italians, but WADA is the overseer of it. So when you file it, WADA basically gets the final say. So you could file it, and then like it take, like I said, 6 months for them to get to it. And then all of a sudden they're just like, no, we're just going to appeal it because we want to. And it's like, well, he didn't do anything else wrong, though. And it's like, yeah, I know. We're just doing it because we want to. We think he deserves more. And so in my eyes, too, it's almost like, why even give NATO Italia the availability of even giving out suspensions if you're just going to appeal it in the end? Like, it doesn't, why even allow them to do it? You know what I mean?
What's the purpose of the plea? If you're going to,
that's what I'm saying. If you're going to give me the availability to sign a plea with someone to have a suspension from my job, by the way, like it's a year off. They act like I got like 6 weeks. I had a year. And they're just like, yeah, no, we think he deserves more, so we're just going to give him more for no other reason other than the fact that we believe so. Like and that to me is crazy. Like you can't give someone like legal time off because of something, because of a consequence, and then just be like, no, we're going to give you more because we just want to. Like who in what world is that okay?
Yeah, and it's definitely very suspicious that, like you said, you end on August 27th, and like the Olympics are the beginning
Yep.
of August.
Well,
So
but that's exactly it. So I want to say the men's shot put is like either the 9th or the 19th of August. So they legitimately, because this is the thing we were doing. Me and my lawyer, we were trying with the appeal. We were trying to get them to settle out of court because they wanted to, but we were trying to get them to give us like the longest suspension that we could so that I could still go to the Olympics. So we said
Mhm.
like 16 months with a backlog, 15 or 16 and a half months. Like we were like, I remember I was telling my lawyer, I was like, I don't care if I'm suspended the minute before the Italian championships start. Like as long as I can do that, I don't care. Like give me 18 months with 18 months, 6 days and 8 hours. If I like, it doesn't matter. As long as I can go to the Olympics, I don't care. And they just basically said, no, like he is not going to the Olympics. And they basically stated to my lawyer, like I had mentioned earlier, that they did it almost specifically so that I could not go to the Olympics, which to me is like, that's just a personal thing. You just don't want me to go for some reason. And you think that that's the problem. And it's, to me, it's not, because it'd be different if this was like 2022 and we were 2 years out from the Olympics and they were like, no, we just think that what you did deserves this consequence. No, they're just appealing because they're like, no, we just don't think you should go.
yeah, it's specific to the Olympics in that exact time period. No.
And that's the thing too, is I'm missing like so much more than that. Like I'm missing the indoor world championships now. I'm missing the European championships, which are in Rome, Italy, which is a massive deal to the Italians. Like it's just become this thing now where it's just, that's what I'm saying. It's almost to me. I don't, and they can say what they want, but on the inside looking at it, being the athlete that's getting it, I mean, this is personal to me. Like this to me is just like, okay, either somebody doesn't like the fact that I like to walk around in tight clothing in a meet and do all my crazy intros, or they don't like the fact that I take interviews and say some grandiose stuff. Either that's it or something, but they just don't like me, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't want you there. I mean, well, I was watching the World Championships, and like so many people know you from looking at the camera, walking out to the World Championship. It's like I know people that, oh yeah, I know Ponzio, yeah, he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
that one. And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, you throw in 40 meets and you do all this, but then a bunch of people know you from looking at a camera, walking
Yeah.
into the arena.
And that's the thing. Like I never want to like toot my own horn or nothing like that. But I mean, in my eyes, I think I make the sport better. And it's not just the fact that like I go to every meet and throw 23 or whatever, like I said, Ryan Krauser's a great friend of mine, and he is, in my opinion, I mean, because there's a lot of guys that are this way, but like Ryan especially is like, he's just the greatest of all time. Like when you look at everything he's done, everything he does, he's the greatest of all time. And I have tremendous respect for guys like Ryan and Joe too, because I've trained with him as well, and Tom, because these guys are like, they're not just good at it. Like they don't just have talent. They work so incredibly hard. And I have so much respect for those guys. It's, I say that, I've worked, in my eyes, I worked harder than anyone, but I mean, these guys are working just as hard. I mean, like I've done multiple training camps and I've traveled the world like the same time with Ryan Krauser all the time specifically. And I mean, the guy, like, I just have tons of respect for what he's done and what he continues to do and stuff like that. And he's all those guys, Joe, him, Tom, like they're tremendous athletes and stuff, but they're a little mundane when it comes to the sport, like in the sense that like they go out there, they do their job, and that's what you got to do. You got to go out there and do your job first and foremost. But I think I like adding that flair to it, puts asses in seats. And so in my eyes, I think like having that little twist, like on top of those guys, is what's good for the sport. And I think it's been good for me in my career. It's been good for my wallet, which is great. But it's one of those things where I think overall the sport needs things like this. I think the sport needs people like myself. And it's just sad that they're just like wanting to just be like, no, we'd rather watch paint dry rather than have someone show up in neon yellow outfits who want to do crazy intros or something like that. So it's just, I don't know. I think to me, they're doing themselves a disservice. And I think the sport's already kind of dwindling per se, especially on a professional scene. So I think things like this would really help it. But, or I should say things like myself would really help it, but I mean, what are you going to do? It's like I said, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or nothing, but I think that's just a major part of like you had said, people know who I am because of that. And I think people really enjoy who I am. And I have kind of a cult following because of that. And I think that it's something that's special and you don't see it a lot. And I just wish I was able to do that. Cause I think I had so many plans for cool stuff this past year in 2023, man. There would have been some really, really cool things. But yeah, I don't know. It's really, really disheartening, to be honest.
Yeah, I was about to say, watching you, like I knew who you were at USC and things just because I was a thrower and would know people.
Yeah.
But growing out when you trained at Arizona with Ryan Whiting and stuff like that, like starting to build that entertainer that you were, like just more and more following you, and it's easy to follow because you stood out. You had the fanny pack on, you had on the wild outfits. It was easy to be a fan. I could be a fan of you by going, that's him. I know who he is.
Yeah.
And I love it. And yeah, I think that stuff like that is massively important to the sport. And especially in the throws, because there's a good amount of popularity in the sprints and different things. And I think it's just because of anyone can go run. Like you understand that very simply. Where the throw, it's a little bit more complicated and it's more things. But when someone like you're an entertainer, you see what's happening and you draw the eyeballs to, oh, what does he do? Oh, he throws a shot. Let me go watch that event and see what that's about.
And I appreciate all the kind words and everything, because that's it. More than anything, like the stuff that I do, I enjoy being able to have people like yourself or like anybody else who watches enjoy what I do outside of just throwing a shot put. You know what I mean? I want at the end of the day, this is all going to end. At some point, even if I was the best ever, like let's just say hypothetically next year I threw 24 meters and I just was the best ever for years. Even if I threw till I was 40, at some point this is going to all end. And I want to be remembered as being that guy, as being the guy that's like, oh man, like what a great dude, and was really entertaining to watch, and stayed after meets to sign autographs or take pictures or talk with young kids or try to make somebody's day, rather than be like, yeah, he was just a really great thrower. You know what I mean? Because that's all going to fizzle away. I want to be remembered as the person that was like, oh, he was so much more than just a shot putter. Because I mean, even at the end of the day too, like I throw a rock for a living. I mean, like how special really am I? It's more, I just want to be a good man. Like I want to be a good dude. I want people to just be like, yeah, like he was just a really, really genuine guy. So like I said, it really means a lot to hear that kind of stuff from you, because even though I work really, really hard to be really good at my sport, I want to be known as that kind of person more than anything.
100%. And I mean it, because I mean there's a lot of times, and I love track and field. Like I am a shot putter. This is what I love. I'll go to meet sometimes, and it's just tough to get watching through a thing when it's just the same thing over and over and over again. When you have a guy come in there, even if it's just he's got more energy than the other guy, he's just getting hyped before he's throw. It's something to kind of draw the attention to it, and I think it's
massive. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So, like you said, obviously, like you can't do your job for 18 months now. So, like, what have you been doing, and how have you been making a living being over the last year, basically, and that the WADA told you, yeah, you can't make money doing what you worked 8 to 10 years of your life really hard to try to do?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of coaching recently. So the big things that I've been doing more than anything is just kind of like coaching the next generation of athletes and just trying to be able to kind of fill the well. That's one of the things that I always talk about doing is it's kind of touching on what I was just talking about. Is I always want to be able to kind of just kind of like bring up that next generation of athletes, like kind of elevate them to where they want to be. And so I've done a lot of personal, online, virtual, and in-person coaching, which has been great. It's been really, really cool. I've really enjoyed that. I don't think ultimately I want to be a coach long term, but I think it's been good to kind of keep my foot in the door with the sport. Luckily, I've made a substantial amount of money throwing, so it hasn't been one of those things where I'm not in need of like a big boy job or anything like that while I continue. There's a lot of things I want to do moving forward that I can't really touch on, that I think will be really good in the sense of, money making and financial kind of stuff. But yeah, that kind of stuff has just been kind of what I've leaned into a little bit. I'm the type of man that, when there's a lot of adversity and certain things, like I'll try to make the best of it. I try not to wallow in sorrow and stuff like that. Like, we've got it really, really well. Like we're made in the shade when it comes to the life we are afforded to live, especially in this life and in this country. I've seen the world and I've seen some really, really tough areas. So, I try not to make it seem like, everything is the end of the world. I definitely do uh, give all of myself 110% in all of my heart and everything I do. So sometimes it comes off that way, but in the reality, I know in the back of my mind that, that's the way it is. And ultimately, I do lean a ton into my faith as well for that too. Like just knowing that there's a plan for it all, and knowing that maybe, even if things are really, really bad, there could be, right around the corner, there could be something that's better than I've ever expected. So yeah, I've been doing that. And that's kind of preoccupied my time, as well as just kind of, like I said, moving forward into the next stages of my life. I won't lie to you, when the Olympics were taken away from me, I had a long time, like maybe, I don't know, a few months at least, where I just started to kind of think like, man, maybe I just need to make a change and pivot out of the sport, which is why initially, before I got the 12-month suspension, I talked about like I was going to be retiring, because it was just like, it's at a point now where losing the Olympics at that point was really, really difficult. And so I was just like, shit, I've just got to find something next in my life. Do something that people will really still love me for me, but do something that's also good for me as well, like in my own endeavor. And then I got the year, so I was like, okay, I'm going to keep training. And then now that I've got it again, those things have crept into my mind for sure. Like I'm not going to lie to you. But I just feel like there's so much unfinished business in throwing, that I have. Like there's so many goals I have for myself that I know I can do, and so many things I want to accomplish that I just can't leave. I just can't leave the sport. Like I'm at a point now where I'm certain that at some point, I'm going to be able to come back and do what I've got to do. But there are some things I want to try now that I have some time, that I will be doing over the next few months and stuff like that. One of the things I can mention is I potentially want to maybe try to get into some Highland games and stuff like that, because I know Matt Vincent, who's the sponsor of one of my biggest sponsors, which is Hate Brand Goods, now not dead yet. He's, a two-time Highland Games World Champion, and he's been talking about it a lot, and I want to transition into it. Been talking to him a little bit about it and stuff, so I want to be able to kind of do that potentially. But there's some other things as well on professional side, of things that I want to try. So we'll see. But that's yeah. To come full circle, sorry, it was kind of a little bit long-winded, but that's what I've been doing, and that's what I want to do moving forward, I should say.
Nice. And you mentioned it earlier, man. You've been looking a lot leaner and everything strong on your Instagram.
Yeah.
What have you been doing training wise, like over this time?
Yeah. So I appreciate that. Thank you. I feel like I do look a lot better, but and that's mainly because, listen, everybody knows me as Chubby Diamonds, because everybody's known I've had a little bit of a nice layer of blubber on me for a while. So when I got suspended, and I had some time, I just got to a point where I was like, you know what, like I'd like to maybe shed a little just body fat right now, and just kind of like walk. If I can't do this for a while, like I just want to like walk around and feel a little bit better, like not be winded walking up and down stairs and stuff like that. I just got to a point where I was like, man, being anywhere from 305 to 325 right now just doesn't make sense. As much as I love being big, sexy and stuff like that, I think trimming a little body fat was good. So I just kind of went into like a full-fledged like diet plan and workout regimen that I gave myself. I've been kind of coaching myself and throwing and programming myself, strength and conditioning wise, for years now. So there's a lot of complexities and nuances to the human body that I know about. So I was just like, all right, let me just try these things that I never was able to try before, because I was, like I need to do certain things to throw. And so I just got to a point where I was like, all right, let me do this. So I've been training twice a day since the end of April to just basically like accomplish those goals. And so I'm just basically doing like a ton of steady state cardio and a ton of like eating cleaner and things like that, just to be able to get to a point where I can get the body composition that I want, while also staying relatively muscular. Like I feel like in some lifts I'm PRing still, and I still feel super strong. But just shedding body fat more than anything.
Heck yeah. And how have you been able to train like throwing over this whole time?
Well, funny enough, I haven't actually even touched a shot put since the end of April. So since the Drake release, I haven't even touched a shot put. And really that was because I was supposed to actually start training. I was going to start training in the beginning of October, and then that stuff with the appeal happened, so I had to get pushed back. Then I was going to start in November, and that got pushed back, and then I was going to start again for a third time. I can't remember, but it just keeps getting pushed back. But I'm going to start touching a shot put again. I start throwing one in a few weeks, so it's going to start back up again for me soon. That'll give me 7 months to get into the shape that I want. I think there'll be plenty of time because I'm going to take it really slow and really methodical. Because I really want to get to a point where once that time comes around, I'm firing back on all cylinders.
Heck yeah. And I know that, like, especially with suspensions, like, it's difficult training with people because of how that works. Like, was that kind of an issue with it, or is that kind of just your plan with it? You just wanted to take some time off?
Yeah. So I haven't been able to train with anyone for a while, and I won't be training with anybody. It's kind of one of the things that's been really difficult to deal with this year. Was that I lost a lot of like things that I had before. So I'm here in Nebraska because I was going to be training with Peyton Otterdahl, who's my roommate and one of my best buds on the throwing circuit, and Berger Lambrecht, who's also a South African. He was a world championship qualifier. Yeah, he was a UNL guy and stuff. So we were supposed to all train together at UNL, and a lot of falling out because of my suspension. Like I wasn't able to be a volunteer assistant there, which is what I wasn't initially to be able to train. And then with the suspension, I wasn't able to even use their facilities anymore. Yeah. So now I'm at a point now where I can't even use their stuff. So I'm just kind of on my own. And to be honest, in 2022, I coached at Belmont University, which is in Nashville, Tennessee, and I trained for the most part alone. I helped coach the kids there, and I would throw with the kids there sometimes too, and lift sometimes when they were in there. But I threw majority of the time just me, and the coach would be there sometimes just to kind of like watch. But I coached myself, and I was completely kind of isolated in that regard. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing again, which I think could be good. I think it could be good to kind of be like, hey, listen, this is all on me again. Because I think maybe there's a little bit of time when I was doing that where I was kind of trying to, I don't even know if that's the right way to think about it, but I was almost like relying on those guys or the coach, Justin St. Clair, who's at UNL, to be there when he wouldn't be there. It was just kind of a different situation. So I think going back to what I was doing may be good for me overall. But ultimately, no, I'm not training with anybody right now. Everything I'm doing, like all the 2 training sessions I'm doing a day, that's all on my own. It's all kind of just kind of something that I just want to do for me. So it's just one of those things where I've just kind of been like, all right, well, I'll do it myself kind of thing.
Yeah. And I feel you on the losing weight, man. When I was a freshman, I was 320 pounds, and yeah. I'm like 5'10". I think you're kind of close to that also.
Yeah. I'm going to say this, and I say this every time I'm publicly announced or publicly asked how tall I am. I have been medically measured in 3 different countries around the world at 183 centimeters, which is 6 foot and a quarter inch. And I don't care what anybody has to say. I am a 6 foot tall human being.
If I ever get measured at 6 foot, I'm gonna be screaming it.
Yeah, but I just So, but I'm around that. Yes, I'm probably 5'11" on a good, or 5'11", and I'm 6 foot if I got boots on or something. Probably if I had to guess. Yeah.
No, I understand. But yeah, I was 320, so I was a big boy and I did it kind of on purpose, trying to get big and strong and stuff like that. But it was the same thing. I was just like, I just don't feel good. Like I'd go to class and I'll walk up 3 flights of stairs and just be like, God damn, what in the world? Yeah. And now I'm weighing like 270.
Nice.
I feel great, and I can move a lot better and do a lot of different things. So yeah, that is it's just a massive help. And it's really, especially, I've been big my whole life. I'm assuming you've probably been pretty big your whole life too. Yeah. So it's I don't know, it's a weird feeling losing weight and all that. You're scared you're going to be weak and all these things. But I lost 40 pounds in over like probably 8-month period, and I was hitting PRs in the gym like at almost every lift. So it's
and really... I mean that's yeah, you're right. I've been big my whole life. I tell people all the time. I came out, so as a baby, I was 13 pounds. So I was already a Husker coming out. I was a Husky gentleman coming out of the womb, but I never looked back after that. But yeah, I got up to my freshman year of college, because I went to the University of Florida first, actually, before I went to USC. And my freshman year of college, I got up to 337 pounds. That was the heaviest I've ever been in my life. And I was on that seafood diet, man. And when I was in Florida, just anything around, I was eating. And lift and as heavy as I could. And I just thought that was what throwing was like. I mean, like I started throwing as a 17-year-old. So I'm an 18-year-old, basically a year into this thing, being like, well, on the outside looking in, you just got to be a big, strong guy, and that's how it goes. And it's just not the case. So I've been 50, 60 pounds heavier than I am right now sometimes. So it's, it is kind of a weird thing, but it does feel better. You know, ultimately you start to think like, hey, I'm so good. Because my best is I'm usually around 140 kilos, which is about, you know, like I said, 305, 308. And that's usually when I throw the best. But when it comes to just like life and wanting to, you know, look a little bit better and all these other things, like I just feel like where I'm at now is best. I'm going to rebound up a little bit to get back into like throwing shape, because it's funny, you know, we say good shape is where I'm at now, but throwing shape will be just a little bit, you know, heavier ultimately. Yeah. But yeah, I feel you. Yeah, I've been a big guy my whole life, so it is sometimes kind of a weird thing to be like, yeah, let me lose what I've gained to try to get to a little bit better body composition. But in reality, if you do it right, like I had mentioned, you know, if you do it, like I feel like I've done it really well, and if you do it the right way, it could be very, very beneficial, and you don't really lose much at all.
Yeah, exactly. You said you were at Florida initially. What made you transfer from Florida to USC?
So when I was in high school, I finished my senior year. I was lucky enough to be the top shot putter in the country, which was amazing, and it kind of opened. Like I mentioned, I started throwing at 17, and at 18, I was like, oh my gosh, I am like kind of the world's my oyster. I kind of have everything at my feet. So when I was deciding to go to colleges, Florida was the indoor and outdoor national champion. And so it was like the number one team in the country. It was like basically getting a full ride as a football player to Alabama at the time. It was like, hey, you got to go there. So I decided to take my talents to Florida. I loved Florida. I still do, like UF in Gainesville and stuff. I love the area. The people there were amazing. I loved the school. Me and the coach got along well. It was just one of those things where I just felt like the I'm trying to think of like the word, like almost like the dynamic of the throwing group and almost like the way that coach coached didn't really work with me. So as most people know, like I'm a big, strong guy and I'm kind of a power thrower. Me and Joe are very similar when it comes to the way we throw. And that guy is he's a little bit different. He's had tons of European athletes. His name is Steve Lemke. Like I said, I'm a big fan of his. Every time I see him, I'll give him a hug and we still talk and everything. And he's just always so congratulatory of me and what I've done in my career and everything else. So it's been really, really great. But he's had a lot of Europeans and a lot of other athletes that I think were a little bit more developed at the time. And I think it was just easier for him to just be like, hey, I can kind of refine these athletes. You're kind of an athlete that's new, and you need to kind of almost be built into what you want to be. And so it was kind of one of those things where I felt like I wanted to go one way, and he was trying to kind of pull me back and bring me to a different way, which, you know, hindsight being 2020 now as a man, it probably honestly was the right way to go about it. He was probably right. But I was just at a point in my life where I was like, I think that this is something that I need to kind of change because I don't think I'm going to be what I'd like to be here. And so I ended up taking my talents to USC ultimately. And there were a lot of different places that I was thinking about going that I thought would work for me. And it was kind of crazy how USC kind of worked. It was just kind of one of those things where I was the most proactive. Everybody else was kind of really proactive in recruiting me, but I was the most proactive in trying to go to USC. And that ended up being the place that I wanted to go, which is very, you know, different than what most people were like, oh yeah, I just go to the place that wants me the most. But yeah, so that all happened, and I was a 3-time All-American there, and had some good times. And I still ultimately, the reason why I continued to throw is because I ultimately felt like I didn't achieve everything I wish I could have in college, but ultimately USC was still a good time. And like I said, so was Florida. I still have good friends. I talk to guys that went to Florida, or that I went to Florida with, I should say, on the team all the time. Like when I see my buddy Grant Holloway, who everybody knows, every time I see him, it's always really cordial and stuff like that. I have some really, really good buddies. My buddy Nick Aruber will be a friend of mine for life. And he was on multiple national championship teams, on national champion 4x4 teams, and was a great 400-meter runner. And even some of the guys I threw with a guy named Stipe Zunic, who was a bronze medalist in 2017 in the shot put. And every time I see him in Zagreb, because he's Croatian, give him a big hug. And another guy, Kamal Mesic, who was a Bosnian Herzegovinian shot putter, multiple-time Olympian. Give that guy a hug every time I see him. Like it was a great time. I just ultimately think I wouldn't have achieved what I wanted to there. So that's ultimately why I left. But that is initially why I chose that, just because, like I said, it was a school that was, like I said, the they were the national champion, so it was like, how can you turn that down? You want to be a national champion? Go there, you know.
Heck yeah. So what was the biggest difference that you found from NCAA track and field to getting into the professional ranks of track and field?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. The biggest thing, so being a professional track and field athlete is very, very difficult. And I think that we're in a time where a lot of guys classify themselves as professionals, and in my eyes, you're not truly a professional until you've made the circuit. Like, until you're one of those guys that's on the circuit often, I don't really know if you're technically a professional. I think that you are in the professional ranks, but I don't know if you're like a professional. Like, to me, you have to make a living being a thrower to be like, yeah, like I'm a full-fledged professional. I can't do this as a hobby and be like, yeah, I do this, you know, I go to big meets and stuff, but like I don't make enough money to live on. Like, that's not truly professional to me. You know, any other sport ever, if you're a professional in it, you're making a lot of money. So to me, the transition from being a college, like a good college thrower, because I don't even think I was a great college thrower. I think I was a pretty good college thrower. To being like I said, one of the top guys in the world was a lot. Like, it took a ton. And first and foremost, it took me realizing that like I need to lean into the stuff that I'm really bad at and lean into the stuff that like is holding me back. So I got to a point where I had to look at myself in the mirror a lot. So I left college. Like I said, I didn't really achieve what I thought I could have, and I had to look at myself in the mirror and just say, listen, if you want to do this, if you truly think that you have so much more to give, then you need to be able to give it everything. And you need to go back and be like, listen, I don't know shit about anything. I don't know what I'm doing. I need to be built. I'll never forget one of the first days I was with Ryan Whiting. He was like, let's just see what you've got. Let's just see what you're doing. And we were throwing a 6K shot put. And this was, man, March of 2018. No, I'm sorry. No, it's supposed to have been March or April of 2019. And I remember first day, he was like, I'll throw with you. We'll just see what you've got. So we're throwing the 6K, and I shit you not, I could not throw this 6K like 19 meters. Like, I couldn't throw the 6K maybe 18, 50, 19 meters. I was having such a hard time. And it was like gut punch. Like, it was one of those things where I was like, man, like that's going to be tough. And Ryan sat me down at the end of it, was like, listen, like, we can work with this. He was like, I think you move really well. I just think that right now you just don't know how to put anything into the ball. And at the time too, like, I was working full time, like I was supporting myself, and I was like, man, I've just got so much going on. And I remember, I'll never forget, I went to an ATM and I pulled out money, and I had less than $100 to my name. And I remember thinking, man, I got a USC degree. I've got like $90 to my name. And I thought, man, like, is this for me? Like, should I just kind of like move on from this? And I thought, no, man, like, I just want to like give it to the Olympics. Like, because it was 2019, I was like, give it this year and the next year, and like, just give it to the Olympics. And there's something that I always tell everybody. I'm like, hey, if you're really wanting to do it while you're young, go and try to the next Olympics. Like, might as well give it a year, 2, 3 years, whatever it is that you decide to keep going, because this is the best time in your life to do it. You have the rest of your life to sit at a cubicle and have a 9 to 5 or do whatever the hell you want to do with the rest of your life. You might as well do it now.
Hell yeah.
So I was like, let me just do this. Let me just do this. So I worked 40, 50 hours a week as a manager at a vitamin shop, like a supplement store. And I trained 3 times a day, doing anything I could on the weekends, like whatever Ryan wanted me to do. I was like, Ryan could have told me to run 10 miles and you'll throw 23 meters, and I'd have ran 11. Like, I was just like, I'll do anything. And Chase Ely, who's now a 2-time world champion, was with me. She'll cooperate that. She used to have to tell me to like fucking stop. She'd be like, you're doing too much. But I was like, I got to do whatever I have to do to do it. And so I remember going as a pretty good college thrower into the pro ranks. I thought, I was a multiple-time All-American, so like, I'll be something. And I was nothing. I did a few pro meets, and I just didn't do well. I think my first couple meets I like fouled out. Like I fouled out of, or no, I didn't foul out, but I threw like 19 mid or something at Tucson Elite, which was like one of my first pro meets, and then like didn't do well. So I just had to start doing like low end meets. I did some meet. I used to do meets like I used to just go on Direct Athletics, and I would do meets that were like, hey, kids will be there, but you can throw. It's an open meet. My first time over 20 meters was at NDSU. Peyton Otterdahl was there, and Kurt Jensen and my buddy Alex Renner were there throwing. And I think actually Roger Steen, who's now a 22-meter guy, but he was there too. And we were all throwing. I think Kurt at the time was the only guy that had thrown 20 meters. And then I think me, maybe Steen had thrown over 20 meters. But that was like the first time I'd ever thrown 20 meters. And then the next week I went to a meet in San Diego. I kid you not. It was me and 3 kids and a master's athlete throwing. And then I threw 2030 or 2040. And then I had a guy. Oh, actually, he was my agent at the time. God rest his soul, Andy Stubbs, who was my agent. He was Peyton's agent, Ryan Whiting's agent, Tom Walsh's agent, Valley Allman, Chase Ely, Maggie Ewan, big names. He was a guy that I was not signed with. I mean, I was a nobody, and he just was like, "Hey, you threw 2040?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, I think I can get you some meets overseas." So then I went overseas, 2050, 2059, 20 something, and then 2078, the World Championship standard, and I was like, "Whoa." And from then, that was when I went to Greece and threw the world standard. That was when I was like, all right, now I think I'm a part of this group that's like that could be professional, I should say, like on that next wave of guys. But it wasn't until 2020 till I actually felt like I was a professional. So I would say it took me like 2 years. 2020 went into the year, COVID happened. I was in New Zealand because I was going to be doing meets in Australia and New Zealand, like my first like Oceania tour. Like there's a lot of meets over on the Gold Coast, and I had just done 21 meters indoors in the U.S., and so I went over there. COVID struck, and I was like, man, of course I get cut down. I went to Indoor USA's, got second to Ryan, beat some big names there and stuff. And I think that meet was probably the first time. I think when I finally like placed at an Indoor USA's, made some good money. I was like, all right, I'm a pro. And then COVID struck, trained my ass off for months. And then I went and did the European tour and won the Rome Diamond League and did really, really well. I had like 6 meets over 21. I think that whole year I had like 19 meets over 21, which is a big deal. And that was when I think 2020 was the first time. So to answer your question, it took me like 2 years to get to a point where I was like, hey, I was a good college thrower. Now I'm a pro, to finally get to the point where I was like, all right, I'm in the ranks of it now. Like I said, when you win a Diamond League, like that's all of a sudden you're kind of in the thick of it. So yeah, that's I think that was kind of that transition. And it took me a long time. And it took me a lot of effort. Like it took me going through some really hard times too. Like I'm mad to say there were some nights, there were some tears and some really, really tough moments of being like, hey, like if I want to do this, it's going to take everything from me, and it's going to take a lot of stuff that maybe I don't want to do. But ultimately, I think it ended up working out pretty well in the end.
For sure. And obviously, like you just said, you competed at the U.S. Indoor Nationals, but in the Olympics, you competed for Italy.
Yeah.
So how exactly does that work? I was looking up, it's like your great-grandfather, your grandfather was Italian, but how exactly does that process work?
Yeah, so I'm full Italian. So it's
Okay.
both sides of my family. So my mom's side, it's great grandfather, but on my dad's side, it's my grandfather.
Okay.
And luckily I shouldn't say luckily, both sides would have done it, but the Italians want paternal. So I think there's only a few countries in the world that accept maternal, which is your mother's side, but they want paternal side. So it was my grandfather, which basically just like immediately initiated it. But what happened was, and I said the story a few times, so I'll make it a kind of long story short. But when I won the Rome Diamond League, they asked me, because I was an American athlete at the time, they asked me what my plans were for the Olympics. And they were like, we noticed that you have an Italian last name. What are your plans? Because at the time, they had Leonardo Fabri, who's a now a silver medalist. He's a really fantastic thrower, and he's a good guy too. But they were like, they only had one guy, and they were like, what are your plans? And so I remember I was telling the federation, I was like, listen, I would really like to throw for Italy. Like, I think that would be huge for me. My grandfather, before he passed, always said he would have loved to like, have us go back to that sort of like Italian roots. And so I remember like my dad used to always tell me, he's like, your grandfather would love if you were like an Italian athlete. Like, that would just mean so much. I mean, in my family, we have such a thick Italian culture. Like, it's been a part of us, as much as we breathe air. Like, it's just been a part of us for forever. So when they found that out after I won the Rome Diamond League, literally a month later, they contacted my agent and were like, hey, we want to get this process going because we want him to compete for Italy in the Olympics. From there, like I said, I went through like a 6-month process. I got kind of stacked, or I got kind of put to the top of the list because they can expedite it. When they're trying to get citizenship for athletes. And then I was able to get my citizenship in like March of 2021, and then I was able to compete for Italy in the Olympics. The first meet I did for Italy was it was an American Track League meet in Marietta, Georgia, and I think I threw like 21:40 or something, and that was like they went nuts for it. But then I went there and won the Italian trials, and I remember the Italian president was like, because it was at the time they were like, hey, you have to win the Italian trials to make the team. And so I remember I was like, it took me like 29 hours to get there, and I was like, I'm not leaving here without it. So went there, won, and then I made the team, and it was just a big deal to finally be able to represent the homeland. And it's meant a lot for me for years. Like, it's one of the proudest things I've ever done. It's because it's not just for me. Like, I think that's a big common misconception. People are like, oh, he just did it just because it's easy to make teams. First of all, no, it's not. We have the second strongest shot put. We're the second strongest shot put team in the world. Like, we have 3 guys.
Especially now.
Yeah, we have 3 guys over or right about 22 meters. Like, we're all of like Zane's a European champion and multiple-time world championship finalist. Leo's a silver medalist. I'm a multiple-time world championship finalist and a Diamond League finalist, and so is Leo. Like, we have a strong team. Outside the U.S., we're the strongest country in the world. So it was never like, oh, I'm going to go there and just like, sit back, kick my feet up, and just make any team. Like, I went there because of the pride of my family. Like, I did it for my name, my people, and that's why I do it.
Okay. And I know this may be a sore subject now because of the situation, but what was it like to compete in Tokyo at the Olympics?
No. I mean, listen, I have no problem talking about Tokyo. Sore subject's kind of ironic because I got injured, but I was doing jerks or something right before at a pre-camp in Italy because I had to do some stuff medically and some other paperwork and stuff after I had qualified and made the team to kind of like, finish the nationalization sort of stuff. And I was doing some jerks and stuff, and a bar came crashing down on me, like right on my knees, and injured me right before the Olympics. So I wasn't able to compete the way I wanted to. Because I saw a few publications had me like making the final and stuff. Because I believe I was 12th in the world going into the Olympics. So I think I was like slated to make the final. And like I said, that just was the unfortunate part about what happened. But Tokyo as a whole, like being an Olympian was almost surreal. Like it was crazy. It didn't really hit me till the end of my time there. Because as a pro, you go and you're like, okay, I'm here for a purpose. Like, I want to make the final, I want to contend, and I want to do stuff like that, which I thought I could have. I still think that I went there in a position to really, really do well. And yeah, that was just the unfortunate part about what happened. I probably, was trying to do too much. I was at a time in my life and in my career where I was like, I need to do everything to a T to be able to do what I want to do. And in reality, I probably could have just taken the day off and even been in a better situation, obviously. But the Olympics were super, super cool. The COVID situation made it difficult. So the COVID situation, like the Italians, we got drug tested 3 times, or not drug tested, I'm sorry, COVID tested 3 times a day, every single day I was there. And so it was a really, really crazy kind of hectic thing. But like everything you could think of when it comes to like athletics was just heightened. Like the dining hall was like 3 stories. Like it was just insane. Like everything you could ever want. Like there were bottles of like electrolytes and water and whatever you wanted on every floor of every building. It was just like whatever you needed, you could get.
Heck yeah.
Trying to make because I mean it's the Olympics, so they're trying to make every single athlete who's one of the world's best. If you're at the Olympics, you're one of the world's best athletes.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to make everybody heightened to a point where they can compete at the highest level.
Okay. All right, man. I got one more question for you.
Yeah, no worries.
What are your thoughts on how should people, or how do we expand the popularity of especially throwing? Like,
yeah,
obviously you said earlier people like you, but what exactly do you do? What do you try to do when you go out there to throw, or when you post stuff on social media? What type of stuff do you think is necessary to grow the sport?
Well, I mean, obviously, what I think I'm doing is could expand the sport, but I think the sport itself of throwing needs to do stuff on its own. So COVID was a really big time, and we could have taken advantage. ESPN was begging for sports, begging. They were putting cornhole on ESPN. They were begging for stuff. I think what we need is like leagues. So I think we need to have like a track league here in America. We did it for USATF did it for a little while. They had a thing called the Summer Series, and it was like a track town summer series. So like they had like stuff all over the country, and they did like these kind of like pro style meets. And it was like you had like one or two throwers for each team, and they kind of went against each other every single meet. Ryan Whiting was a part of it, so he used to tell me all the time it was like one of the coolest things. It paid really well. And we need to do stuff like that. But ultimately what they need is they need to have people who are willing to spend money on the sport too. So the problem is you can't really do any of that stuff unless you have the funding. So we need guys like Mark Cuban or somebody like that, like to put a ton of money into it. There was rumors that he was trying to do that, but I think ultimately he realized he wasn't going to make much money out of it. But we need to have money put into the sport and do things like that that can allow for personalities like myself and great performances that are kind of left behind to be able to shine. Because I think right now we have a system where there's the tier system where it's Diamond League, Gold, Silver, Bronze level meets. And you really only ever see stuff from the Diamond Leagues, but there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes that are really, really spectacular. An instance, for example, is and I tried to mention too, obviously majors too, like the Olympics and Worlds, but a good instance of this is Kendra Harrison, I believe is her name, the hurdler. She didn't make the Rio, was it the Rio team or one of those teams, and then broke the world record like the next week.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
sometimes because it's such a cutthroat sport, even if we don't make these big meets, like if you're not on the Diamond League circuit or if you're not in the gold level meetings or if you're not making these major championships, there's still a lot that can be done. And so I think we need to have a league type system where even if you don't make the Olympics or something, it's like, hey, listen, I still have pro meets after this that I can still shine at, and there's still things that I can really, really do at a really high level. Because I think that's the only way to truly get to a point where we can see performances, especially throwing, really, really shine. Like the New York Grand or the LA Grand Prix that they had where Ryan broke the world record. Stuff like that is great. Grand Prix, stuff like that is exceptional. We need more stuff like that, but the problem is ultimately we need money to be able to do so. So we need to have that first and foremost.
Heck yeah. All right, man. I really appreciate your time and you coming on and
Yeah.
talking and everything, answering all the questions. And obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing you throw, hopefully in September or whenever you come back.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate this. I really hope to be back and throwing, but I hope more than anything that people stick with me and follow along, because no matter what, I'm still going to be Nick Ponzio. I'm still going to be the guy that I hope everybody loves. So, yeah, what's coming soon, I hope people really, really enjoy. But ultimately, like I said, I really appreciate those kind words that you just said. And hopefully I will be back too.
Heck yeah, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.